And it's time now for weather with Nebraska Extension Ag Climatologist and Market Journal Chief Meteorologist Al Dutcher. Al, can we call this week a scorcher? What are we looking like heading into July?
Well, Troy, you're exactly right. We did see some of the heat build in. I wouldn't call it scorching temperatures, but we certainly started to see some above normal temperatures. And really, we have to go back to June 4th through the 8th to see a similar period where we've seen well above normal temperatures. This one is going to be, that period was basically in the upper 80s to the low 90s. Now we're dealing with mid 90s to the low 100s. So we're jumping our temperatures up 5 to 10 degrees over that earlier period, and we're going to be dealing with much more significant dew point temperatures, which is going to make things rather sticky. So I kind of look at it as sort of that same type of thing that we see in the fall when we get that first big surge of cold air. It feels miserable. You get accustomed to it, and it's not nearly as bad. So we're not exactly looking at a widespread big heat wave, but we are definitely looking at well above normal temperatures, and we should start to see some moderation of these temperatures as we get into the early part of next week. So as we look at the upper air pattern, what we can notice is the center of the high pressure ridge bringing this heat is sitting right over eastern Nebraska. Very light flow in the atmosphere, so it's going to be a very warm, sticky day with not a lot of movement of the air. And you can see high pressure pretty much dominating the region, although we do have a surface low to our southwest. There's really no moisture to feed into this with that high pressure, keeping the atmosphere stable above. And then as we go into tomorrow, we'll see a slight movement of that trough to the west to the east. That will still keep us rather warm, well above normal. We'll still be looking at mid 90s to low 100s, depending on where you are in the state, particularly the warmer you are to the south. Not much in the way of any precipitation, maybe a few scattered isolated thunderstorms in the panhandle, but more importantly, as we get into the day, Sunday night into Monday, we see this little wave moving through the region, and that may spark off some thunderstorm activity, particularly in the panhandle. And basically, wherever this convergence zone between the cooler air to our north and to the warm air to our south is where we'll see thunderstorms. Right now, it's depicted across northern Nebraska. This will start to materialize and move toward the east as the week progresses, so we're going to have increasing chances of thunderstorm activity, particularly as we get into the day on Tuesday, as that front starts to sag a little bit more into central and southern Nebraska. We could probably see some widespread precipitation, and then that front basically moves off to our east. The trough digs in, and we'll start to see much cooler conditions across the northeastern part of the state as high pressure starts to build in, but we are still going to be dealing with precipitation, particularly as the front sags across the southern part of the state. So we do have those chances for thunderstorm activity, and then as we get toward the end of the week, we are looking at yet another wave trying to make its way across the northern plains with high pressure starting to build into the western United States. It's going to start to push some of that warmer area into our region, so we're going to start to see a warm up as we get toward the end of the week as the main activity for thunderstorms really moves toward our south. And so as we go into the day on Friday, we see much cooler conditions to the east, warming conditions starting to redevelop in the western high plains, including Nebraska, and a return back to widespread 90s across the region with just an isolated thunderstorm activity. The big question going forward is, will we start to see this ridge again reflatten back out, or is it going to build back toward the north? And that's the million-dollar question. The models are all over the place on it right now, and the latest runs are bringing a little bit cooler conditions in as we go into late next weekend. So the 8 to 14-day forecast reflecting this cold air moving into our region from the west. It looks like the cold core of that will be all along the Rocky Mountains, and that should induce some convection along the Front Range with still a snowpack holding on in the central Rockies. And in terms of precipitation, as those systems move across the northern plains and tapping that moisture from what's left over from the snowpack, we should see widespread above normal precipitation. Although we're not expecting any one day to be excessively rainfall, we will see continuous rainfall events. So Troy, it looks like warm this weekend, then a cooling trend with wetter conditions as we go through the middle of next week.